Hey, are we here?
Hey, yeah,
Oh,
I'm here. Hi.
sorry.
How you
I was just
doing?
like, good.
That's okay.
Like deer in the hairlight. Oh, okay, wait,
Yeah.
what's
Well, it's
going on?
Monday, right?
It is. It's Monday, and it's Monday after a holiday weekend. So, how was your holiday, Karen?
Oh, it was amazing. I love Father's Day for many reasons. One, I picked a great dad for my children, and that makes me so happy. And part of the reason why I did is because my mom set a really good example of that. So it was wonderful to celebrate my kid's dad. And it made me think back on my father, who actually died 11 years ago yesterday. He actually died on Father's Day. And that's the
Oh,
dad that actually raised me, and he adopted me. So he's very special to me. And so we wanted to talk a little bit today about the gut, right? So when I think about my mom picking him as our dad, because we have a biological father that didn't work out with, and she was 18 when she met him. And when you're 18, your gut is completely different than it is when you're 23, even though
or
you're still
maybe
very young.
it's not your gut that's different. It's the way we listen to our gut that's
Yeah,
different,
that's exactly right. Yeah,
right?
that's a
Yeah,
better way to put it.
yeah.
Yeah. So she was sort of, and back in that time, it was in, the 60s and 70s. So she was sort of a hot to trot divorcee. And my dad, that adopted us, who's really our dad, he was 23 years old. And, people were like, what are you doing? You're marrying a woman that already has 2 kids and baggage. And my mom was concerned that maybe he wouldn't love us like she wanted him to, or love us like she loved us. But right away, he loved us, and we were his kids. We never said step or dad. They had a daughter together. We never said she was our half sister. We were all just a family. And in fact, some of our cousins didn't even know we were adopted. And so he was just the most wonderful dad. And he had a great way of, you could just call him when you were questioning your gut or your space, and you would say, hey dad, I have this problem. And he would just say one word answers like, yep, well, I guess, you think? He wouldn't say much, and then you leave going, thanks dad, that was such a great talk, I really appreciate it. So I took that example from my mom, and when I set out to find my partner, there was no doubt that somebody would have to be the best dad. And even if, God forbid, something happened in the future, I would never even consider dating anybody or thinking about dating anybody or anything like that if I didn't feel like they could love kids like that. That's so important. And I really feel like it's important to tell people out there, check your gut, listen to your gut on these things, because I think we've seen in the world how that really affects people when you marry people that maybe don't love your kids like they need to be loved, or you want them to be loved, and really listen to that, because it really does affect the kids and the community and everyone's life at large. So, and I know you've had some experience with that. You have a bonus dad as well, Sherry.
Yeah, no, I do. And I'm so lucky. He was never a bonus dad because of marriage, but he was a bonus dad because my family had its own dysfunction. And
Right.
we were really lucky to have Ray and Sharon pop into our life when I was 16 and just step in and be that voice. And I've always called them my bonus mom and dad. And
Yeah.
so they've been around a long time, and I just can't imagine life without them. And I agree with you. I've never liked that whole thing of step this or step that. It's families, if we believe that things happen for a reason and people come together for a reason, then these new people that are in our lives, these additional people in our lives, are a bonus, right? They're a
Exactly.
bonus. But and so you're so right about gut. We wanted to talk about gut health today, and not just not just from a physical standpoint, because it's really important from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental and a spiritual standpoint. So why don't you go ahead and you know what, we also wanted to talk a little bit about some follow-up on last week's podcast. So Why don't you share with
Yeah.
our listeners about that, Karen? Because that was
Yeah.
really, it makes everything that we've gone through, all the fear and worry and work, worth it, just in your
Yeah.
stories.
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so like, we've talked about what experiences do we want to give to people? What are we trying to achieve? But after listening to the podcast, my mother-in-law, we were talking about how when moms don't stop wearing bathing suits or people stop wearing bathing suits, it affects their life in a lot of ways and the people around them. And kids just want to swim with their parents, and grandkids just want to swim with their grandparents. And she hadn't swam in 45 years. The last time she swam was when my husband was 5. And she can't swim, actually. She's kind of scared of the water, but she listened to the podcast and she borrowed a bathing suit from her friend. And she came over and she surprised us and she put it on and she looked adorable. And she was very nervous and she got in the water. And I don't think we're ever going to get her out now, but it was the
Oh,
most fun day. And my son, he almost acted like he was 5 again, like just having his mom in the water again. It was so cute. And you could see how she didn't realize how much it affected her life. And Mike didn't realize how much it affected his life as his mom, not ever being in the water again since, for 45 years. And my kids just got the biggest kick out of it. Plus she just looked so cute and you could tell she loved it and thought like, what have I been holding back for? So
oh my gosh, that,
now,
that just makes my heart sing, right? It's like,
yeah. So that's what we're talking about. That's the untangible stuff that you can't really put into words, but that made me feel great too, that I knew we're doing something. We're making some sort of positive effect on people. So it was great. And I was happy to hear she's listening to the podcast.
that's cool. So, but you remind me quickly of a story I have to tell you. So my grandmother, she was probably about my age now, and she probably had the extra weight, about the same extra weight that I have now, and which we're going to talk about more in a minute. But
Yeah.
I remember Weight Watchers started. It was right when Weight Watchers came
Oh,
out,
yeah.
and my grandma was so, she had her scale and her cottage cheese, and she did everything right. And my guess is she lost probably about, I don't know, 20, 25 pounds. And we hated it. It was like, where did our
Yeah.
grandmother go? And she was so proud of herself and excited to, wear the clothes she wanted to wear. She was always such a stylish lady. But it was just, in retrospect, I feel bad because it's like, we miss our grandma. So it's just
That's
a reminder
funny.
that people don't care,
Yeah.
as Maya Angelou always said, it's how you make people feel is what they remember, not how you looked in the bathing suit.
That's
So,
interesting. It kind of reminds me of a story too, that I'll just share. So I used to be a lot heavier. Actually, my heaviest weight was 264 pounds, and I lost
okay.
a bunch of weight. And people would come up to me and first of all go, oh no, I don't like this. And second of all, I didn't know you were heavy before. I didn't even know that you had all that extra weight, which was kind of interesting. And it really threw people for a loop. And they were like, you're too skinny. We don't like this. It's unhealthy. Like it really threw off everyone's equilibrium. And it bummed me out in the same way. Like, wow, I lost all this weight. I feel great. I was expecting, unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why we do it, right? Because you fantasize in your head how great everyone's going to think you look, right? But it was the total opposite. Of course, nobody wants me to be unhealthy, but people,
Right.
it really threw them off. Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind
Right.
of interesting. Yeah.
I'm going to mute real quick because my phone is ringing and I can't turn it off. So
Okay.
why don't you start talking about
Sure.
what you're,
Gut
okay.
health.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
So today we wanted to talk about gut health and a gut check. And one of the ways, some of the ways that you can kind of check your gut and listen to your gut psychologically. And basically a gut check, there's kind of, you hear maybe it was first started in the Army or even it's a tennis term. And the tennis term is sort of strange. The reason why it was a tennis term is they actually used gut intestines to make the strings. So they said, check the strings on your tennis. But basically a gut check psychologically is an evaluation or a test of a person's resolve, commitment of priorities, and typically in respect to your actions and how you move in the world physically and mentally. And it's important to, it's not it's not really a judgment. It's more how you feel and more how you see the world rather than, and there are some biases to it, but you can sort of check your gut and see how you're feeling. And they always say, you know, that is the truest sign of
Excuse me.
how you're feeling. But most of us, I guess we don't trust it. So there's been a lot of different studies about checking your gut in different universities. And one study that I found was very interesting about gut checking. It's basically like you detect how you're feeling in a situation, and then you reflect how you feel about it, and then you reject any part that may have some sort of biases or negative thoughts, and then you project into the world a better thought pattern, or a thought pattern based on more of a sense of feeling of positivity and seeing things clearly. So you just kind of run through those things in situations. Have you ever had a situation where you felt like your gut was trying to tell you something, but you completely ignored it? You didn't detect what was happening. Could you maybe give us examples? I mean, I've already had 10 today. I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, I'll go back just even to the magazine, and
Yeah.
I'll say that this has been a positive one. So where my head was telling me, what the hell, this makes no sense, but my gut was saying, no, I just felt so compelled. Like, this is what I want to do. And even the podcast, it's like, oh my gosh, what do we know about podcasts? Right.
Right.
But
Right.
there's something about it, that just says, no, it's the right thing to do for whatever reason. And I think the story you just told about your mother-in-law was just priceless. And to that, we're getting stories like that every day. So
Yeah. And we
something,
also,
yeah. So our guts are working for us.
so I'm gonna have to leave for a second. My cat is locked in here. I'm sorry. I gotta let him out. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
you go ahead. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you detect what your gut's saying to you, and how you listen to it a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I think we sort of ignore the signs, and maybe some of the signs are. I'll be right back.
Okay. So yeah, uh, it's not that we sort of ignore them. It's like we majorly ignore them. I think what happens is, like, I'll just speak for myself, is that we get so busy with just keeping up with life, that just get so busy that we don't take the time to listen, or if we hear it, because you can tell it. I mean, initially you can tell the difference, but over time we just get so that we just don't even hear what our body's telling you. So there was something I heard the other day that I thought was fascinating. It was, and Karen, we've talked about this, about just the fact that we as human beings exist is a miracle. I mean, like,
Right.
it's like a trillion gazillion odds in one that we would, the sperm and the egg would collide, and actually here we are.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is a miracle. But then the other thing is that we get this body that's so it's a miracle when you just stop, when you start looking at what our bodies do on a minutely basis. These 5 trillion cells, or however many there are, that are all kind of working together to keep us going. And so we're gifted with this perfect body that can do all these things beautifully. And then we, as people, human beings, and just living our life, just spend all this time, um, I don't want to say destroying it, unintentionally sabotaging ourselves in all kinds of ways. And
Yeah.
so, we do this mentally, we do this physically, we do this spiritually, by just not paying attention.
And you and I, we also talked about how each of your organs have a brain. Like your brain is a brain, right? But also your gut has a brain, your other organs have a brain, and our heart has a brain. We tend to want to listen to our heart brain and not our brain, or vice versa, right? So
Right.
we sort of talk ourselves in and out of
Right.
things, right?
Right. And so, and one of the ways, so if we kind of look at, we've talked a little bit about kind of listening to your gut, and and you can tell the difference, right? When something's not right, you don't feel well. Your energy is low, you're anxious, you're all kinds of things. And so what I'm learning from the physical side is that if your gut health isn't good, it can cause anxiety, and
Yeah.
it can cause fibromyalgia and other kinds of illnesses that are really hard to put a diagnosis on, but you just don't feel well. So, anyways, if you're kind of okay with that, let's talk a little bit about the physical side of gut health. Does that
Yeah.
work for you?
Yeah. And then maybe we can just go back to a little bit about the detection, reflection, rejection, and projection too. We'll just, yeah.
Oh,
So,
let's talk
yeah.
about that now. So go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. So for the detection part, so the thoughts that you're having, you just have to ask yourself, what is triggering these thoughts in me and in this situation? So you just kind of reflect, you just kind of detect it, like, why am I feeling this way? And why is this coming? Like, just acknowledge it, how you're feeling. And then reflect on your thoughts. Are you panicking? Are you forcing thoughts down? Are you pushing it down? Or are you letting them come naturally? Again, and just letting things happen organically. And again, just listening to your body and reflect on why this is happening, why you're thinking this way, and how your body's feeling. And then reject any of the negative biases you may be having, and then replace them with possibilities of positive scenarios. Like, for example, say you get out of a car to look at a beautiful mural on a wall, and a group of, say, teenage boys come up to you, and you might feel one way or the other way, and process that. Do you feel nervous? Do you feel scared? Or do you feel excited to see young children looking at a mural? How do you feel? And kind of, you might be frightened, like, why is a group of teenage boys coming towards me? But then if you really reflect on what's happening and put your feet in the ground and be rooted, say, oh, they might be coming to look at the beautiful mural as well, to share this experience. So it can be a beautiful thing. And then you can reject, why did I feel nervous, or they might be coming towards me to hurt me, and they really just wanted to look at art. So it just opens for more possibilities and willingness to listen to yourself and listen to your gut, and to see it in a different light.
So, and one of the things I heard that I kind of I try to live by is that um, uh, our our biggest self, right? Our big S self, we like to say,
Right.
our true self, our divine
Yeah.
self,
Yeah.
will always look at things from love. And so if you're feeling something and it feels good, then you know that that's kind of coming from your higher self. And if you're feeling something and kind of to your point and it doesn't feel good, then sit with it, right? Just kind of
Yeah.
like you said, and pay attention and say what's really going on here, right?
Exactly.
So is this an idea that I have, or is this, some belief that I have that's not serving me well, it's limiting me? Or is this really my higher self saying, or is this really my gut saying, this is not a direction that you want to pursue, or whatever.
Exactly. And if we seek to do this in every moment, and change our biases and give us a gut check, it can lead to compassionate acceptance to society, and put more love in the world and less hate. Just ask yourself, what are you assuming in every a moment, and then project that into the world. Just and maybe in that situation, just sharing I'm so glad kids are looking at art, just sharing that vibe out to, say, the group of children that you might have been afraid of, or the teenage boys or whatever, that you felt like, oh, I don't understand what's happening. Maybe they would feel like they would pick up on that, and they would feel okay, rather than pick up the bias that you're giving them and sending them that message. So hopefully if we can do this in every moment, it'll change the scope of how we move in the environment and how we affect people and ourselves.
Well, and I think that we should come back to the thing is that we were given this gift. You know,
Right.
it's like our bodies came with this gift of
Right.
this intuitive thing if we stop and pay attention to it. So one of
And
the oh,
oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I just wanted to finish with one thing. So we all have the power to examine our own self and take steps towards a positive inclusiveness for the future. So remember that you do have that power. So keep checking your gut and use that power in a positive way.
Yeah, no, that's great, Karen. It makes such beautiful sense. So okay, so we've got the mental health. I mean, not the mental health, our intuitive gut health, right? Or gut
Mm-hmm.
check. So then there's the physical side. There's the real physical, what's happening in our bodies. And so I don't. I was a. Did you know that 70% of your immune system cells reside in your gut?
I did not know that.
You know,
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, okay, so there's a lot going on in our gut that controls how we feel. And like I said earlier, that anxiety, if our gut's unsettled, it can produce anxiety in our brain. And also if our brain's unsettled, if there's anxiety in our brain, it can induce issues in our gut. But one of the things that really got my attention was that I learned that for a 150-pound person,
Uh-huh.
27 pounds can be of weight can be because your gut garden is off. and
Wow.
and it's not like, at first I thought, when I first said that, I go, oh my gosh, you're just full of poop. But that's
I've been
not.
I've been told that before.
Yeah. Maybe with a different little languaging, but
Yeah, yeah.
um but the truth is, it's not just in your belly, it's all over. And so one of the things that I had learned when I was at a conference with physicians, it started Good Fat Life actually, was this woman had told me that she was a doc, and she said, and she was an MD and a naturopath, and she said, um, and she was an Asian, so she studied both East and West medicine. And she said, the fact that you have a belly tells me that you've got gut issues. And
Interesting.
and I always, I always remembered that. But I will tell you, since COVID hit, and we had to slow down and just be more, more mindful, I guess. And it dawned on me how much control I have of what I put in my mouth, because no, I'm not just running and dashing and eating when I can, because I was just busy a lot and traveling a lot. It's like, no, we're home now. I make every single bite of food that goes in my mouth. And that was really fascinating, because what I found is that I'm doing lots of things wrong. I'm
Yeah.
sabotaging myself. And the the but the thing that's unsettling it up about is that we have this gut microbiome, and it's real, and it has a big
Yeah.
impact on our health. I mean, people, if you have bloating, or you have discomfort, diarrhea or constipation, and lots of people have issues, um, and just don't feel good. And but the other part of it is, so I said, okay, I want to learn more. Well, it's downright confusing. It's overwhelming.
It really is.
I started kind of like looking for um, credible sources. Um, and today I got a like 10-page email from a source that I had signed up for, talking about poop. And if you order this magic miracle product, for, I don't even know, probably 19, no, it's probably more than that, then all of your gut issues will disappear. Well, the truth is, it's not that simple, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
It's not simple to not try to laugh every time you say poop. I have to be honest.
well, but also the truth is, I have found some really wonderful medical support, and
Mm-hmm.
some fabulous resources. And so, but I've just made the decision for 2020, I'm going to be really mindful, right? And I'm going to
Right.
follow these protocols, and you do a lot of elimination to see what has an impact on you. And that's the way you figure it out. It's because everybody's different,
Yeah.
and one person will say, just eat vegan, the next one will be eat all meat, and the next will be eat a Mediterranean diet. And the truth is we're all different. And so what works for you may not work for me, or it may work,
Yeah.
may work beautifully. So those are the things that, I just want to, I guess, communicate on this gut thing, is that we get to choose our body. If 27 pounds of the weight that I've got is, and that's all the extra weight that I've got, and if that's because my gut's not healthy, then I want to figure this out.
Yeah. What have you found that's been the most successful for you so far?
Um, well, it's been kind of the first thing is just being honest with what's working and what's not working, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
there's tests that you can take that say, your body should respond. And we'll go back to poop. You should have a certain kind of poop once a day, every day. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, something's not right. And I used to think that that was just a bunch of
Poop.
garbage. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But then, the evidence shows differently. And so I'm taking the time now, and I found some great, like I said, medical support, alternative, and my doctor support, helping me kind of eliminating things, working through it. And some great resources. There's some wonderful online courses that are really credible.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things. And that idea, darn it, I control every bite I put in my mouth.
Yeah. And, Sherry, back to sort of the psychological part about it is that really food and food interaction is really the first experience we experience in life. And that really is the first experience of love, feeding with your parents or your mom or breastfeeding. And when we take that experience away and we just mindlessly eat, it really does affect our minds and our guts. And so I'm so glad that you're taking a moment and reflecting and really thinking about it. And in other countries where they don't have a lot of money or a lot of food, they might be healthier. And I keep hearing over and over again that, they serve their food with love, right? And you
Right.
had talked about also how when you sit down to eat, you sort of thank everybody in the process of the food. So I think being mindful of how this is going to affect your body,
Oh,
and why
you
you're eating is so important.
well, you hit on one big thing that that is in the medical research, is that mindful eating is a huge deal. So how we eat, I'm just looking kind of for my notes. How we eat is just as important as what we eat. I mean, who knew? And how many of us just grab and go?
Right.
We grab and go, or we're frustrated, or we're sad, or we're all these other things, and we eat to provide comfort, emotional comfort and stuff. But it's not it's not mindful.
Right. It's just
And
empty calories and it just leads to more.
even if it's good food, even if it's cauliflower or
Right.
whatever, it's
Yeah.
still the environment that we're putting it into is not serving us. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was a point I wanted to make, is the mindfulness is a huge thing. So to me, those two things, I'm paying attention to what it is that I eat and the impact on my body. And the second thing I'm really paying attention to is how I eat.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Are you finding that eating slower helps, or were you finding that maybe you're eating too fast? I know I certainly eat way too fast.
Right. And so apparently if you eat with people, you'll eat slower, but if you don't pay attention, you'll eat more.
Okay.
Right? Because we're just eating. So there's a lot of little nuances and things that we can pay attention to. Um, and they're all in our control if we just pay attention. So
Yeah.
here's one thing I did find is that, so, it's no secret I love red wine, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to see, though, the impact that red wine has on me. So I said, okay, because it's caloric. So I said, okay, I'm going to stop drinking red wine for a while. Well, I'm not kidding. Within 3 days, it wasn't that I stopped drinking adult beverages.
Right.
I just want to be clear. I just
Yeah.
switched, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I switched to coconut tequila with lime, which is amazing.
Oh, well, that sounds, yeah,
But
coconut tequila.
yeah. But anyways, I found that when I stopped drinking the red wine, I stopped snacking at night.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wasn't that
Yeah.
interesting? It's like there's
Mm-hmm.
something in the red wine that made me want to snack, where if I drink the tequila, I'm just not interested.
Or you just
So
don't remember that you had a snack. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Tequila.
yeah, yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, I know. But isn't that just fascinating that that
It
one
is.
that one food can have such a shift?
It
So
is.
it's just playing with
Yeah.
it. So
Well, what's interesting for me is that, in the past where I'm like, oh, I'm going to be good, I'm going to be healthy. And then I have one sip of an adult beverage. I'm like, oh, diet, schmiet, healthy, smelty, like you sort of get in that brain where you're like, well, I guess it's fine. You feel good about everything. So again, it's important to be mindful. And I think one of the great things about how sort of everyone's sort of a mixologist right now, and they're taking the time to make these lovely drinks. You really want to enjoy that drink because it took, 15 minutes to make it, or, people are like doing all these things with sugar cubes and stuff. So you see the love put into these drinks and you're like, oh, I just want to enjoy this. Someone put so much craft and beautiful artistic work into this
yeah.
drink. So I really want to enjoy it.
No, that's a really good thing. So you're being mindful, right?
Yeah.
Mindful to enjoy it. So there's just there's just so much research and reasons now for us to pay attention, to what's going on in our gut, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's a big deal. And now that we're kind of like slower, our lives are slower.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can just be more aware.
Now, I'm just curious, this is just coming off the top of my head. Have you experienced that maybe red wine was bothering you more because you were drinking it consistently and that it's your body sort of builds up some sort of resistance towards it rather than trying something new and maybe it's sort of a honeymoon period in your body, or have you researched on anything like that?
That's a great question, Karen. I have no idea. I
Okay.
honestly have no idea. But uh, those are things like I said, I'm just going to take 2020 and just say, this is my year to really pay attention to my gut and see what happens. And I really do believe that our bodies are wired, to be heal itself. And
Yes.
if we give it what they need. So I just wanted to do that, to say, hey body, what do you need, and let's figure this out. So
I like
we'll
that.
see.
Yeah. Have you found that your family or your husband is enjoying the recipes more because you're taking more time and being more mindful, or are they eating the same things with you? Or are you eating differently than them? Or
No, that's a really interesting question. I would say we're having a lot of fun with cooking now. Um, we're just, with trying new spices and foods and things that maybe we hadn't before. I didn't realize how easy it was to get in a rut with food.
oh, for sure, yeah.
I guess I just didn't, because we were busy and coming and going, and we ate out a lot more, and we eat at home now, right? So it's been, we're having fun. I mean, we're
Good.
really having fun. Yeah.
What's fascinating to me is when I go to the grocery store or someone else's house, they have completely different food. And it's like, where are you finding this? Why am I not buying this? I never even think to put these things on my cart. It's sort of fascinating. And then you might try something at someone else's house and then you start adapting that to you. But it's very curious how different people's carts are if you look around the grocery store or in people's homes or cupboards. is kind of interesting,
I know you're
Yeah.
right. It's fascinating. And so, I mean, that's just been a really fun, and it's fun, right? To try new stuff.
Yeah, and I think that in the past, growing up, especially our generation before, one meal was made and you ate that meal no matter what, right? And you ate all of it and you didn't ask for different or more. That was it. And it seems like now families are, I know in my family, I'm sort of a short order cook. We're all eating something differently, which seemed like a bad thing at first. I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those families that caters to everyone in the family, but it sort of goes to what you're saying. We are all wired differently. We are all needing different foods or craving different foods or wanting different foods, and they are affecting us all differently. So maybe it's a good thing to be more open and to try to follow each person's individual body and also make something as a group, I think it's really interesting.
No, and that's a great point too. And that's, I'm finding that if, that we can do that, right? It's not that hard.
Right.
So you can provide kind of a little bit of a smorgasbord and people can choose. Like if you make a salad, people get to choose what they want in their salad. Um, and and carbs. I mean, I can choose to eat, I might eat a sweet potato and my husband might have pasta. Um,
Right.
and that's fine. It's an easy thing to do, but
We
it's
okay.
intentional and planning. You just have to plan a little bit.
We first of all, I love the word smorgasbord. That's one of my favorite words.
Oh,
And
okay.
we always, well, not always, but mostly birthdays and get-togethers. We are all about, like, we'll have a burrito breakfast bar or a taco bar or a salad bar. We're all about the bars and the toppings. And we, like my son for his birthday, he wanted to have a grilled cheese bar, so we had tomatoes and avocados and bacon, and each person made up their own sandwich and then we grilled it. And it was also a fun activity to do with
Oh yeah.
everybody. And
Yeah.
so, and a couple weekends ago, we had a breakfast burrito bar and we had different proteins and different vegetables. And some people are pescatarians and some people are vegetarians and some people are just meat eaters. And it was fun to see how people created their food, and it sort of opens a dialogue of people talking about food and what they're eating and why they're eating it. And I never would, you put that on there, I'm gonna go try that now. So it kind of opens your experiences up to people and food. And what I find fascinating is, I don't know if you've ever encountered this, Sherry, but it seems like anybody that's gone gluten-free or becomes a vegetarian, somehow they tell you in the first 7 seconds that you meet them. And you're kind of like, I don't know why why do I know this about you already? But it's really important, right? It's really a part of your health and part of your who you are and your personality. So it's important to listen to these things and other people's food stories, right? And you can learn about them and yourself.
No, that's a great point. I love that. I'll watch for that now.
Yeah.
But you want to know. You want to know, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm
Yeah.
inviting somebody, when we get to invite people over again, I want to know what food they prefer.
Yeah.
Um, so well, good. So you brought up, I think, is there anything else that you want to say about all this?
Just, I think the mindfulness is so important for your body and your mind. And just physically gut check how you're feeling when you're eating, and mentally, and then also in your family and your friends, what you're serving them, how they're feeling after. Um, and just be open and willing to hear and experience other people's food stories. I think a lot of times, especially when you entertain, you have people over and it feels stressful because they might have different dietary issues, but sort of try to honor that and really hear what they're trying to do for their body, and help them achieve that, and maybe take a cue from that.
Okay. All right. And I would just like to finish up. So, we like to be intentional and aligned with our goals, if you will. So my meditation for the last 21 days has been with Oprah and Deepak Chopra have one on getting unstuck. And so my thought was, if my gut's not working right, it must be stuck in some way. So I've been listening to that. Well, today's meditation was great. Oprah quoted from one of her favorite books, or was from uh, Big Magic. So a healthy gut is one that's flowing, right? And so one of her favorite passages is in Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So sounds like a wonderful book. I'm adding that to my reading list.
Yeah.
And in that, Elizabeth Gilbert asks to herself, and she says, "And what is it you want, dear one?" And the answer is, "More wonder, please."
I love that.
So I just thought, more wonder, please. Let's just go and find more wonder. More wonder in our gut health, and just more wonder in our life.
Can you give us an example of how's that showing up in your life now that you've heard that expression, Sherry?
It changes. It changes for where I could feel overwhelmed, and like maybe, I'm not going to drink red wine or whatever. But more wonder, please, is just like, oh my gosh, what's possible? Just makes me
Yeah.
feel good.
It feels
So
limitless, right? You just and the curiosity, right? So yeah, wonder is such a beautiful thing. And I think that's why children are so great, right? Because they wonder all the time. I know probably when your kids are little too, it's all why. It's all wondering, right?
right,
And that's so
right,
wonderful to get back into that space.
right.
And wonder with food, and wonder too, also the possibilities. Like, I wonder what it would like to feel my gut health to be perfect every day, how that would change your life, right?
Right.
So,
No,
and I love
that's a
that.
great way to end it. I wonder what that, and Karen, that's exactly, why I'm doing this, is because I wonder what that would feel like.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah,
thank
exactly.
you
And
for
I
crediting to that.
wonder what that's going to look like for you. And I look forward to seeing that
Right. And for
for
all
you,
of us.
for all of us. Yeah.
Okay. Well, bye for now.
Bye for
Until
now.
next
Thank you.
week. Okay.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.